I am queer, I am non-binary, and if I am not in your movement will not win.
The queer people of color who are out there fighting, I think that's kind of the intersectionality of it. I mean, a lot of times people forget that two of the original founders of Black Lives Matter are queer. They say that their identity as being a member of the LGBTQ community, kind of like James Baldwin, kind of lend them this kind of outside status, and also this connection with this past of oppression and fighting back.
I've been in every single Pride parade since the first one. I've marched for human rights. I've marched for equal rights. I've marched for Black people's rights, because while one person in a country is less than another, we haven't achieved what we need.
In the 1950s, the gay community, as we were all called then, were just so frightened, for good reason. To the churches, all the churches, we were sinners. To the government, at the height of McCarthy-era persecution, we were all subversives. To the police in every single state in the country, because every state had sodomy laws, we were all criminals. To the so-called mental health professions, we were all crazies, and most of us didn't dare come out of the closet.
Gay rights started not with white people, but it started with people of color, and it started from probably the most oppressed people in the country at that time. And oftentimes I think that's where a lot of these, protests actually really start, when people literally are pushed to the brink and they can't take it anymore.
Maybe more now, because it keeps growing up overnight. And this is a unified effort on the part of somewhere between 20 and 30 organizations on the East Coast.
Black love. Black love had to be more expansive than the hate in the world for us. And Black liberation must be equally expansive, because you may not have known it, but I'm going to tell you now. If you are fighting for justice, if you are fighting for liberation, then you are fighting under queerness.
In Los Angeles, in 1970, there was a big parade, about 1,000 people, down Hollywood Boulevard, and it was really quite incredible. I had actually been a gay teenager on Hollywood Boulevard in the 1950s, so to see this the summer of 1970 was truly remarkable.
We have to step into our power, and much like those in the LGBTQ community are told that we must come out, it's time for us all to come out. We must come out of the closet as anti-racists, come out as revolutionaries, as freedom fighters, as intersectional feminists. It is time for us all to come out of our fear and come into our power. Do you hear me? Do you feel me?
The interesting thing about Pride is how it's become more corporate, and there's, in many, many cities throughout the country, it's just a thing you do. It's a big party. There's no question about whether it's a political statement anymore, in the way that LA Pride had to deal with the first few years that it was held. Where, for Black Lives Matter, it's still, particularly like, where are they radicals? It's almost like, depending on where you are, is it going to be dangerous? Is it going to turn into a riot? Are we going to get looted? Are right-wing militia people going to show up and infiltrate it and cause, drama? In my lifetime, what was so interesting is to see Pride being dominated by mostly gay white men and pushing for same-sex marriage. And what got lost were all of the other things that, queer people of color experience, like the intersectionality, like poverty, like, racism combined with homophobia or, transphobia.
How could I sit back when I'm achieving, getting a little teary, I'm sorry. How can I sit back and watch somebody else be treated the way we were treated?
It's certainly frightening that the person in the White House has declared that he was going to call out the military to put down peaceful protests.
I think that's what's interesting about this particular moment in our history is we have queer women Black women of color leading a movement that kind of intersects all of these. It's Black lives, it's trans lives, it's gay lives, and we can't lose sight of the fight, think the fight is over just because one group of people have won, basically.